Hello and welcome to SCN Corporate Connect. I'm Jane King at the New York Stock Exchange, and with me today, Luke Jacoby, the Chief Operating Officer of Benzinga. So welcome, Luke.
Thank you, Jane. Thanks for having me.
Tell us a story about Benzinga. So I've been on the site.
Great.
Tell me, I guess, just who uses it, what all kinds of features do you have on Benzinga?
Yeah, so Benzinga is a financial technology company based out of Detroit. We specialize in news and data distribution. So the world of financial news and data had been, dominated by some of the behemoths in the space, for decades. And there's a lot of cool innovations in technology, research, data, et cetera, that have allowed us to come in and produce a series of news wires that we can distribute to, the active trader, to the investor, et cetera. We're now the largest distributor of news to North American brokerages.
Wow.
So our users span a pretty wide audience. Everybody from, the mom and pop who are using their brokerage account at home to, some of the world's largest institutions.
Okay, and you're based in Detroit.
We're based in Detroit.
Which is fascinating.
And I love it.
Because everybody would automatically think, oh, let's go to New York, we got to be in New York. But
yes.
Detroit is working out really well for you,
Detroit's
right?
working out really well for us. The firm's about 7 years old. We've been in Detroit that whole time. And it's been absolutely incredible seeing the city come up, in its renaissance. It's been, pretty well documented, and being a part of that's been wonderful. There's a lot of new tech going into the city. Dan Gilbert moved Quicken Loans down there, which brought a ton of jobs and money. There are other finance startups that are joining. So it's been absolutely incredible to see, these empty buildings become filled up with these new innovative companies.
Yeah.
And a ton of population filling it up as well.
That sounds very cool. And I'm sure from an operations standpoint, it is so much cheaper to
Yes.
be in Detroit than New York.
Yes,
So,
it's a lot cheaper, and it's actually not as hard to find talent as you would imagine.
Interesting.
Like people like myself, for example, who was planning on building a career in New York, but found this opportunity in Detroit. I was thrilled to stay there. So we were able to pick the best of the best because there's not as much competition in this space.
Right, and there's a lot of tech education going on in the Midwest.
Correct.
Uh-huh.
Yes, in Detroit specifically, Dan Gilbert and his Quicken Loans team have really been leading the way. Just filling up buildings with startups, building public transportation, et cetera, to sort of make Detroit this new hub, especially the automotive technology
Sure.
in Detroit specifically.
Okay, so tell us about the fintech space and the technologies that are disrupting that right now. I know there's a lot of talk about it. It's very exciting what's going on right now. So be specific, what's actually happening in that space?
Yeah. So like I alluded to, there were, just a couple behemoths that, dominated the whole space. That dominated information flow, transactions, research. And there's a lot of these cool new companies and big companies as well that are spending a lot of money to say, okay, we can do this more efficiently. There's a company, Redtail Technologies, for example. It's a CRM for financial advisors, and it allows them to communicate with people more efficiently. There's all these cool, innovative ETF companies that are producing, these smart beta ETFs that say, okay, hey, we can do this at a lower cost than some of these active managers. We've got a product, our Benzinga Professional product. It's a financial news terminal, and essentially say, hey, you don't need to spend thousands and thousands of dollars a month to get information like block trades, options data, et cetera.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and you're a millennial, so
I'm a millennial.
Talk about that in the fintech space. So I guess that would put you at an advantage, right?
So there's advantages and disadvantages.
Okay.
I guess for me specifically. In terms of disadvantages, I think it's pretty obvious. It's you're going into meetings and it takes a second for people to warm up to you or to get your story out. But in terms of advantages, I've grown up, and some of my colleagues have grown up with these technologies that are driving the way forward. Finance is lagged.
Very comfortable with it.
Exactly. Finance is lagged, so many other sectors. And that's where, we can say, okay, we know how this user interface should work. I know there's a more efficient way to do this, and that it's been, helpful in that regard. So.
And your user base, it sounds like wide, like from professionals to just people who are interested in investing in the stock market for their college education or kids or something like that. Right?
Exactly. Yep.
Okay.
So we've got our main Benzinga.com website where we're publishing trade ideas, actionable insights, etc. But then at the higher, more institutional level, we actually have an infrastructure where we'll ingest various data sets and compelling pieces of information for quant funds and discretionary hedge funds, and having just one API for them to consume it all. So it's fun, getting to touch both sides of it.
Yeah, it's fun to be in a startup.
Oh,
I mean,
it's great. You know, working 70 hours a week, but doing something you love,
fun?
and
Yeah,
with a crew that wants to work
but
late
you're
at
building
night, so
something, and that's what's cool.
Especially out of Detroit.
Yeah.
You know,
Okay.
building something out of Detroit
Right.
and being one of the first finance companies and bringing conferences back to Detroit has been.
Well, it's great to hear about Benzinga and great to hear about Detroit too.
Excellent.
So thank you so much, Luke, for joining us
Thank
today.
you, Jane. I
The
appreciate
Chief
it.
Operating Officer of Benzinga, and thank you as well for joining us on SCN Corporate Connect. I'm Jane King at the New York Stock Exchange. Have a great day.